Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to your English lesson. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Ford, and welcome to your English lesson. I hope that you're having a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, wherever you are in your part of the world. We have a great lesson prepared for you today over here. And my first tip for you guys is using have to and not should when you have some obligation. So we have have to, and then we have should when we're using some obligation. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Have to, should, some obligation. Well, I'm going to explain that we have the example here, you should visit your mother-in-law. Mother-in-law, the mother of your husband, the mother of your wife. Some people call it mother-in-law, even when she's the mother of your girlfriend or boyfriend. Do you have a mother-in-law? Let me know in your comments. So we have, you should visit your mother-in-law, and then you can see it's a happy situation. The mother-in-law is smiling, the daughter-in-law looks okay, happy, and they look happy. So we have a should situation here. So should in this case, it means a suggestion, it means it would be a good idea. So should, it would be a good idea. Now, maybe that sounds basic to you, but let's contrast that with something else, shall we? That's this one here. You have to visit your mother-in-law. You have to visit your mother-in-law. And when you have to visit, I mean, just look at her face. Oh my God, you have to visit your mother-in-law. Have to, as you can see here in the description, it means it's an obligation. It's something or someone that forces you to do it. So when you have to visit your mother-in-law, you really have no choice. You have to visit your mother-in-law. So let's take a look at the comments and see what everybody's saying about mother-in-law. That's my question for you. Do you have to visit your mother-in-law, or should you visit your mother-in-law? We'll take a look at some of your comments to see what you're saying. Okay, so we have different comments about that for have to and should visit your mother-in-law. So let's transition back. So that's the first one, because I have a lot of students who will say, oh, today I should visit my mother-in-law, when really maybe they want to say have to. So be careful. In summary, should, it would be a good idea. Have to, it's an obligation, something that's forcing you. You have to visit your mother-in-law. Now, let's say that you are single. Maybe you're not married. You don't have a mother-in-law. In that case, you don't have to visit your mother-in-law. But when we use don't have to, it's not obligation in this case. It's in the negative. It's you don't need to. You don't need to visit your mother-in-law. So we have some people watching this video that do not need to see their mother-in-law. They don't have to visit their mother-in-law because they're single. Woohoo! Maybe you're happy about that. Maybe you're not. I don't know. But it could be that you don't have to visit your mother-in-law. You don't have to. So that's, you don't have to. And then we have the next one. Oh yeah, so these are your skinny jeans, tight-fitting jeans. Your skinny jeans. Do you remember your skinny jeans? Skinny jeans, in case you don't know, skinny means very thin, that you're very thin. So your skinny jeans are those jeans that are very tight, and usually they're the jeans that you have when you are at your best weight in your life, when you're in the best shape of your life. Those are called your skinny jeans. They're tight-fitting jeans. And you can see in the picture here that she's having some difficulty getting into her skinny jeans. So you can see that if you want to fit into your skinny jeans, A, you have to exercise more. B, you should exercise more. C, you don't need to exercise more, just wear bigger jeans. Just wear bigger jeans. So, what do you think would be a good answer for you, an appropriate answer for you in that one? Already, I see some comments that skinny jeans are the worst. If that's the case, then maybe you're thinking letter C. You don't need to exercise more, just wear bigger jeans. It's not necessary. I see that some people, actually a lot of people, are saying letter B, you should exercise more. It would be a good idea. And I see nobody saying letter A. Oh, one person said letter A. You have to exercise more. So the ladies watching this lesson, some of the ladies watching this lesson are saying letter A. You have to exercise more. So some of you that want to fit into those skinny jeans of yours, you're thinking, oh, okay, I have to exercise more, Steve. No choice. I had a student like that. I knew someone like that. And at the end of our class, at the end of our lesson, she used to say, well, Steve, now I need to go work out at the gym. I said, that's great. And she says, we have no choice. There's no choice. We have to do it. So for some people, it's an obligation. You have to do it for whatever reason. So that's interesting to see. Yeah, we had all kinds of different answers for that one. And we'll go to the next one. The next point that I want to talk about is that we use should, but sometimes we use ought to. Ought to. Now, it's always a surprise for my students when I say that you can also use ought to in place of should. My students, my YouTube subscribers, sometimes you guys are, what? What? You can use ought to? We do. And it's interchangeable. So you can use it in place of should. You could use ought to. So you could say, you should exercise more, like in our example, or you could say, we ought to exercise more. You'll hear it in a North American way, in North American English, but you'll hear it used in a specific way. So here's an example. Here's David, and David has a girlfriend. Ah. And David had a big argument with his girlfriend. In case you don't know, argument in English, it means that you have a fight, a discussion. Well, discussion is discussing a fight. You had an argument means that you had a fight with someone, and it's verbal. Usually, I hope so. So that's David had a big argument with his girlfriend and she dumped him. If you've seen some of my other lessons, you will know that when you dump somebody, she dumped him, it means that she broke up with him. She ended the relationship. She's like, bye bye, ciao, sayonara, see you later, adieu. So she broke up with him. Aw, she broke up with him. What should Andrew do now? So once again, when we're asking this question, what should Andrew do? We're asking for suggestions. We're asking for advice. What should Andrew do now? And in this case, what do you think he should do? Well, one answer could be he ought to get a new girlfriend. He ought to get a new girlfriend. As I said before, should and ought to, in this case, mean the same thing. Ought to. Ought to. And here's another way that North Americans use it, is that they will pronounce ought to oughta, oughta, oughta. So if I go back to my example, he ought to get a new girlfriend. That's the way that most native speakers would say that. He ought to get a new girlfriend. Yeah, he ought to get a new girlfriend. So that could be why some people tell me why they think they've never heard of ought to before. Because when native speakers, especially here in North America, when they're pronouncing it, they will not say ought to. They won't pronounce it in its full form. They'll say ought to or oughta. He ought to get a new girlfriend. Oh, that's so fast. He ought to get a new girlfriend. He ought to get a new girlfriend. It's very fast. So you can play around with that, with the pronunciation of that. So that's that one there. And we will go to another possibility of what Andrew can do. So this is my question for you. What should Andrew do now? A, he ought to get a new girlfriend. B, he should focus on family and friends. C, he should focus on work. What do you think that Andrew ought to do or should do? I'm curious to know. So Benny is already saying here, Andrew ought to celebrate. Okay, and here's a good question here. And this is, because they sound similar, this is actually an excellent question. Let's see if I can show it. I'm going to have to try to copy it here. This is coming from Max. Can you see I'm copying your answer here? And I'm going to, so Max's question is oughta and gotta, same thing. They sound the same, Max, but the meaning is different. And it's a great question. So I'm going to copy out your question so that everybody can see it, and then I'm going to talk about it. So here's what Max just wrote like 5 seconds ago. Max was saying, oh, it looks like Max oughta. Changed your name, Max. Now you sound like a telephone. The new Max oughta 5. So Max, oughta and gotta, he's asking if that's the same thing. Great question. Remember that oughta, when we're speaking, is short for ought to, which means should. And gotta is short for have got to, which is the same as have to. Yo, have to. It's the same. So you could say that I've got to see my mother-in-law, or you could say I have to see my mother-in-law. They're the same thing. The So because of the same thing, you can shorten I have got to I've got to, and then you can shorten it even more like you have and say I gotta, I gotta. Can you see that, Max? So gotta is a very fast way of saying I've got to. It's a very fast way of saying I have got to. So no, it is not the same as ought to. So that was a really good question, Max. Give me a high five. So we can go back to the pictures of what we were talking about. Let me just find that there, which is this here. So I'm interested to know what some of the answers are going to be here. And yeah, so we can see this. There are different answers for that. Most people chose he ought to get a new girlfriend, I believe. Interesting. So that one's done. Then we go to the next one. Interesting situation. Don't know if this has happened to you before. You come across a wallet on the street. Oh, look, there's a wallet. What do you think you should do? You ought to call the police. Oh, and by the way, I didn't include it, but come across means that you find by chance. So, A, you ought to call the police. B, you should keep the wallet. C, you should call the owner of the wallet. So what if you come across a wallet on the street, what do you think you should do? I'm interested to know. Okay, and we already have one answer here from Santanu Chowdhury, who's saying, I would take the money. So you could put it in the sentence there, Santanu, and say, I should keep I should keep the wallet. Letter B. A lot of people are saying letter C. That's very nice of you. So a lot of people are saying you should call the owner of the wallet. That's very nice of you. So you would look inside the wallet if you come across a wallet and you're thinking that, I should call the owner of the wallet. Wink. I'm sure you would do that. Yeah. So that's what you should do. Okay, well that's nice of you. And well, let's go to the next one. Yeah, we had a lot of answers for C here. My third point is that had better is stronger than should and is used for giving warnings. Had better is stronger than should and is used for giving warnings. So we have an example here. You find out your friend's husband is seeing another woman. So I don't know if you completely understand it when I say that you find out your friend's husband is seeing another woman. You can see that there's some lipstick on the collar there. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And I don't know what your answer would be to my next question. I hope you can understand the situation. So you find out, you discover that the husband of your friend is seeing or having an affair, having another relationship, a romantic relationship with another woman. Yeah, very, Very, very tricky. So there are a few options here. For example, if you find out your friend's husband is seeing another woman, A, you had better tell your friend. And in case you don't know or want to review, had better is stronger than should. It's stronger than ought to. So you had better tell your friend means that you give that person a warning. You're like, hey, your husband, he has some extra activities after work. Open your eyes. So that's giving a warning when you use had better. So we have other options here of what you can do. So you find out your friend's husband is seeing another woman. You could A, you had better tell your friend. B, you shouldn't say anything. You only have two choices in this question. So what do you think you should do? Or what had you better do? Remember, had better is stronger. And let's check out some of the answers. For example, one person here, Kelvin, is saying, I would tell her the truth. And do we have any other answers? We're still on the answers for the wallet. Sudhir is saying that you had better inform your friend about this. Most people here are saying letter A. Most people are saying you had better tell your friend. Did we have any letter B's in the answers? I'm just curious. We have some funny answers here. But I won't read your answers or your names in case you might get in trouble later. So let's go to the next one. Yeah, we're laughing at the answers here inside the chat. If you were watching this live, you would know what I mean. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So we have some interesting answers there. So that's that one there. And then we have this one. And this is the last one. That have to is not exactly the same as must. So have to and must more or less mean the same thing when you look it up online, when you check it online. What's the difference between have to and must? Most people will say that they basically mean the same thing. There's a small difference. But they both mean obligation in a general sense. Have to and must. So I want you to imagine that your friend asks you for a favor. So imagine your BFF, your best friend forever, they ask you a favor. Oh, can you do me a favor? Could you please, could you do me a favor? Could you please, can you babysit my children for 2 days? Look at those children. Can you babysit my children for 2 days? I'm going away for the weekend. Oh, decisions. So, what would be your answer to that? You could say, I have to study for an important test. If you say I have to, you're saying, I don't want to babysit her kids. I mean, just look at those kids. Those kids are scary looking. You could say, I have to study for an important test. And when you say I have to, it means someone or something is forcing me. So maybe, for example, your teacher, your professor is forcing you to study. I have to. So that's I have to. I have to study for an important test. It's not my choice. My teacher is making me do it. So sorry, I can't babysit your kids. That's I have to. But when you say I must study for an important test, she still doesn't want to babysit those kids, those little angels. When you use it like that, must in this case means I'm forcing myself. Do you see the difference? I have to. My teacher is forcing me. Must, I'm forcing myself. Most people in North America in this case would use have to. I've got to, I gotta would be another way of using it. Really need, I really need to study for that. Sorry, I can't babysit those kids. I really need. But it's not so common nowadays for people, at least here in North America, to use must in terms of obligation when you're forcing yourself to do something. For example, I have to get to sleep. Yeah, I would hear people, I think I would hear people using that. I must get to sleep. I don't think I would hear people using that. It would be more, I have to get to sleep. I've got to get to sleep. I need to get to sleep. I really need to get to sleep. Something like that. In this case, any excuse to avoid babysitting those little kids. So hopefully you can remember some of the takeaway messages from this lesson today, because these are some things that I notice with my students, advanced students. So they know the grammar, but somehow it's not 100% clear. And try to remember those 3 points. So we had what? We had at the beginning of the lesson that have to and not should when you have some obligation. That's pretty easy. You should remember that. That's an easy one to remember. The second point that we had was that we use should, but sometimes you can use ought to. And if you remember, we can also say oughta. And the third one, your takeaway message from today, is that must and have to are a little different in the way that we use it. Maybe you didn't know that. There are many other explanations for modals, but hopefully you enjoyed that in the context of some fun pictures so that you can use it and see it in the way that we really use it, in the way of a situation. So this was a great lesson. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. If it's sunny tomorrow, I will be doing an outdoor lesson, everybody. I want to go outside. That's going to be now the clock's changed, but apparently not in the UK. Well, they did change in the UK, but I still don't get it because it's the same time. Anyway, tomorrow we're going to be having a live lesson on YouTube. One more, and that's going to be at 6 p.m. GMT. 6 o'clock GMT on Saturday, and I'm going to try to do it outside. I will try. I hope you can come. And I hope that you enjoyed this grammar lesson. I really did, because it's based on all the experience that I've had with my other students. So I hope to see you in our lesson tomorrow. Let's go out with a little bit of music, and I'm going to be saying goodbye to everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Kelvin Katakali, Julia, the familiar faces, Viet,